What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Nvidia for an anonymous requester. They did not want me to mention their name, so we're not going to. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more. We can look at Nvidia on the monthly, I suppose. Very bullish chart, man. Absolutely insane, this chart, guys. Absolutely insane. Let's look at it more closely, though. Hold on. Monthly, right? If we're looking at the monthly chart, you are in the overbought zone in your RSI. If we put a line exactly where you are now, you're getting to the areas that you've essentially topped out at any cycle, right? You are near there. This is the monthly chart. You're near there on the RSI terms. It doesn't mean you're near there on a time format, right? It could be several months, even a year or more, before you find your high in Nvidia. And if you look here, I'm curious, yeah, you see this was your high in the RSI right here, right, in December. But was that your high in price? No, you continued, you built bearish divergence over time. You had your high in your RSI. But I mean, let's see, that was December of 2016. You didn't drop significantly until October of 2018, right? So just because you're up in this area doesn't mean that you're going to drop dramatically. It could mean that sometime soon, like over the coming months or a year or more, right? That was like about a 2-year span right there. But what it more likely means is that you're going to cease this dramatic increase and start to taper off a little bit, right? And that doesn't mean you have to start it now, right? This is just the area where that becomes more of a reality. Again, you're going to continue to grow, but probably taper off. It doesn't mean that you can't drop immediately. You could. Anything's possible, of course. But just from what it's done before, and being this strong in the RSI, being this hot, a 90 on your monthly, dude, that's insane. I would expect that you do build bearish divergence over time, which would imply that this continues to see lower highs as time goes on, but the price continues to see higher highs. And then inevitably you will see some kind of major correction, right, for a little spell there. But this is Nvidia, right? So I'm not calling for a major correction anytime soon, hopefully. Maybe significant to what it's doing now, but really the look that we have on this chart would suggest, we're at 128 right now, it would suggest that we're moving up to about $152 at least before we see any kind of like more significant correction. If we look on the weekly, you do have bearish divergence confirmed. It is printed on there. And you did move down a little bit, right? But you're holding up quite well. And Nvidia does this thing, man, where it has bearish divergence. This, by the way, this bearish divergence would call for you to move back to your 1886. And that's pretty common, right? Checking back at your 1886, moving up to your 2272, and then perhaps moving like, maybe you don't even move down that low, but perhaps you move higher even. That's a pretty common maneuver. But you don't have to do that just because it's common. Really on your weekly RSI, you're still in the overbought zone. You're still in a position of strength. You can absolutely continue to build. But it wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't be crazy at all if you came down out of your overbought zone and you hold this kind of higher low structure that you have, right? It wouldn't be crazy at all. And that, with this kind of look could imply that you're moving down more or less until September. And if you're moving down until September, I think you absolutely could see a $111 price, a $97 price. Absolutely, you could go below $100 again, but 97, that's pretty close to 100. $100 is a psychological level. You might see people capitulate and panic sell if it breaks $100, even if it's by less than $3, right? That's $97.21 right there. Even if it's less than that, less than $100, people might panic. So they're like, oh, it broke $100. I need to get out of this. But that's actually a really good area to buy. It's previous areas of resistance. It's the 1886 on the fib scale. You literally like tipped it twice, showed respect on it. It would make perfect sense to bounce right off that area. And just because it makes perfect sense does not mean you have to go there, right? You could come down and bounce there. You might have found your low already, and you might continue to go up. It's really hard to say. This thing, every time I call for it to go down, it does go down. But here I was calling for it to go down lower, and it it didn't even do probably half the move that I was expecting it to do. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be convicted in my downside calls. The chart, the way it looks to me, would suggest that you're moving down to about $197, something like that. If you move below 97, if you move to 95, whatever, right? 97 was where you wicked, but where you closed your weekly high, it's at 94. You could go below $95 and you're still fine. You could even go below 94 and you're still fine, okay? It's not a problem. But I wouldn't be surprised, even though that's what the TA calls for, being that this is Nvidia, I wouldn't be surprised if you found support above that area, or maybe you've already found support now. Maybe you go up higher first and then you go down. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. What I can say is your weekly RSI looks bullish as hell, other than this bearish divergence, okay, which again would call for you to move back down here. If we look at the daily chart also looks really bullish. This actually, to me, kind of indicates that you would start moving up. It depends, right? It depends on what tomorrow does. You did bounce off your 50, which is a really nice look. You're maintaining readings above the 50. That's definitely bullish as hell. But rejecting off of your 60, like what you did on Wednesday last week, that's not so much a good look. That actually is not a good look. So you need to get above this 60 on the daily time frame. If you can't, if tomorrow you start moving down, which today, this day that we just had today on Monday, does to me kind of look like you would move down. I actually want to measure the fibs here from a high to a low point. It would to me make more sense. Oh, you know it. The 618 is the golden ratio. It would make more sense to tip it and then move down. But if there's so much selling pressure or short selling pressure, I don't know what's going on. But if there's enough selling pressure, a lot of people, this 618 is not, it's a mystical number to some degree, but it's not some number that's unfamiliar to traders and investors and trading algorithms, trading bots, investing bots, right? This number is something that's on everybody's radar. From a relative high to a relative low, you best believe this area is on everybody's radar. Whenever you reach for it and you can't quite hit it, right? You have a tip just like this that falls just shy of it. That could imply, especially with the day looking like this, it could imply that there's not enough buying pressure, there's more selling pressure, that you can't even reach that area, right? People are front running it, in which case that could be a bearish indication that you are going to go down. Correctional phases do tend to be like 1, 2, 3 moves, and this is your move down, your impulse, 1, 2, 3, right? So it wouldn't be crazy to go lower than this low at all. And in fact, I would call for that. I am calling for that. I really would call for that $100 to $95 area. That's my personal call. I think that's where you're going to go inevitably. But you're at 128 now. Perhaps you do move up to 131 or 133. Maybe move all the way up to 138, first. Who knows? But I would think more probably than not, regardless of what you do in the more immediate terms, over the weeks, maybe even over the months, right? Because it could be until September. We're in July now. It could be months that this thing consolidates. And that consolidation could take you all the way down again to like $95 to $100. It doesn't have to go there. It doesn't have to, but that's the current call right now. So I don't know if I have anything else I want to say. I guess I can do, as far as like where the all-time high is going to be before you see some kind of significant correction, I don't know if I can predict that, right? I mean, crypto's a little bit easier in a sense. It's still a guess at all times, but crypto's easier because you have the Bitcoin halving, which the bull cycles are reflected around, right? From high to high, that's a 69-month period. From this high to that high, that was a 40-month period. I mean, to this high, it's ridiculously longer, right? It's not even the same. This high happened in October of 2018. And that high happened in November of 2021. That actually was the Bitcoin high. Actually, because these chips, I believe, are used to mine Bitcoin and other various cryptos, right? That's actually, in theory, why, or part, not the entire reason why, but part of the reason why Nvidia's gaining value is because the crypto industry is actually using these their cards, their chips, their whatever, whatever it is that they make. So maybe we actually can project out when, based off of that, when the all-time high would be. I'm expecting Bitcoin to top off. It literally topped off. Let's do this right now. We're going to correlate it to Bitcoin. We're going to throw that on there. Okay, indicators, correlation coefficient, BTC. Oh no, come on. It does this every time. It does this every damn time. It's only the first time that it does this. BTC USD. There we go. Apply. Look at how correlated it is. So this indicator down here is correlation coefficient on a monthly basis. On a weekly basis, it probably looks a little bit different, but you can see it's definitely it's kind of in its own uptrend of its own. You might expect it to start seeing correlation. The reason why it's neutral is probably because crypto has dumped while Nvidia hasn't really dumped that much, right? On a monthly basis, though, very correlated. The closer you are to a 1, that means you are identical in price movements. The closer you are to -1 means you're exactly opposite, inverse of price movements, right? Regardless, since 2016, you've been more correlated to Bitcoin than not, right? And that makes sense because, again, crypto miners, they use they might use these, what is it, SD cards, computer mining chips. I don't know. I don't know the proper words, but I know that it's associated with it. And again, it's kind of a coincidence talking about the correlation that they have together, that Nvidia literally found its last significant high in November of 2021, which is when Bitcoin found its last cycle's high, right? November here, 2021, that was the cycle peak, and then we dumped down. We actually found our low in November of 2022. I'm curious. October of 2022, look at that. So I really do actually have price predictions for Bitcoin, and I think we can apply that to this. We don't need to measure it out in time. We can just put a vertical line there. I think that I think the bull cycle for crypto is going to end anywhere from, I'm assuming, June of 2025 to December of 2025, right? Or let's just put it in January of 2026. This window here. Given the fact that you are in this area in the RSI where you might expect to see things taper off, and you might not, you could continue to grow. I want to see, actually, based off of this exact area, right? You're over here, right? Essentially right there. That was 5 more months, right? So you found your high. 5 more months. Okay, so yeah. Essentially for the next half year, for the rest of this year at least, you might see this growth at this consistent rate here, right? Oh, that's not the best. Let's use straight lines, right? You might see this growth for the next 5 months by the end of this year. So that would put you, let's see, by the end of this year, let's go to January again. You know, at least, I think, because this is the bottom, so at least you'd be at $207. By the end of this year, I think Nvidia will break $200. Okay, I'm fairly confident in that. Okay, especially as crypto mining gets more rambunctious and crypto itself gets more rambunctious. But then after this point, you'll start to taper off, and in which case, you know, you might fall below this line. Your minimum might not actually, that might not be your minimum anymore, closer maybe toward like a midpoint or even a maximum. But I mean, in this window, it's really hard to say. Let's throw some fibs on there and just see top to bottom. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it sounds like water pipes, right? This, your 3113 is at $405. Your 3618 is at $730. It sounds insane. This is Nvidia. It's insane, you guys. It's insane. Perhaps before you see your next significant drop off in Nvidia, it'll be sometime next year, sometime later next year, and you could be as high as $405, potentially as high as like $730. As crazy as that sounds, man, that would be nuts, but that's what I'm calling for. That's what makes sense to me in the charts. If you guys like the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more. In the more immediate term, right, in the less long term of things, I do think you're going to make a move down to around $100, give or take $5, right? Maybe even $10, who knows? Don't freak out if it's below $95. Don't freak out. It's Nvidia. It's going to be fine. I promise you. And don't be surprised if it doesn't even reach that $100 area. It's Nvidia. This thing is a nonstop train to the upside, man. So that's all I got to say. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.